Hello, Steeler Nation, and welcome to the latest episode of your Pittsburgh Steelers Syndicate with me, Britsburgh Owen, your voice from across the pond, speaking to you live here in the UK. Well, it was live when I recorded it, where it's not actually raining for a change, amazingly. So, anyway, today, guys, I'm asking, do the Pittsburgh Steelers already have Tuitt's replacement on their roster? And I think they do. I think they've got someone who can quite easily replace Tuitt and mean that we do not have to go out and sign a free agent like a Larry Ogunjobi, who I think would cause more problems than it's worth. Definitely not an Ndama Kongsu, who is way too old, I think, and probably would be very expensive. And or someone like a Carl Nassib from the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's have a look, shall we, at the Pittsburgh Steelers' current way too early depth chart. This is our defensive depth chart, you can see. So left defensive end is currently listed as Chris Wormley, Carlos Davis, and Daniel Archibong. The right defensive end is listed as Cameron Hayward, Isaiah Loudermilk, and DeMarvin Leal. There's one or two other interesting stories there if you want to take a look, but let's move on. I'm going to talk about Isaiah Loudermilk. Isaiah Loudermilk is someone the Steelers clearly have a plan for, that the Steelers clearly rate. They would not have given away a draft pick in order to trade back into last year's fifth round to get Isaiah Loudermilk. Loudermilk did play some games last season and did a reasonable job in the rush defense. One of the few positives, I think, on the rush defense was the emergence of Isaiah Loudermilk as a rush defender. Definitely better than his pass rush. Let's have a quick look, shall we, at Isaiah Loudermilk's stats from last season. A little bit of an overview of the man as well. So here he is. He was obviously out of Wisconsin, and last season he had 16 solo tackles, 1 sack, no forced fumbles, and no interceptions. Let's have a look at this stat here as well. So here are the stats broken down a little bit more. So regular season and postseason. So for the regular season, 23 total tackles there, 16 solos, 7 assisted, 1 sack, no forced fumbles, no fumble recoveries, and so on, as you can see, but 3 passes defense, which is very, very interesting. I'll talk a bit about that in a minute. Postseason, he had 3 total tackles, 1 solo, 2 assisted, and that was pretty much it. Giving him a career, if you combine the two, 26, 17, 9, 1 in terms of his stats for total tackles, solo tackles, assisted tackles, and sacks. In fact, one interesting thing about Isaiah Loudermilk's 2021 season is he actually had his best games against one of the best teams in the AFC, that being the Kansas City Chiefs. In the 2 games versus Kansas City, in the regular season game, he had 3 solo tackles and 3 assisted tackles. And in the playoffs, he had 1 solo and 2 assisted against the Kansas City Chiefs. So his better individual performance, okay, although not spectacular, did come against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, one of the weaknesses of Isaiah Loudermilk last season was that he looked more like Zach Gentry than Cam Hayward, which for a defensive end is not a particularly great thing, because Zach Gentry, although he's a massive guy, is not a defensive end. He's a tight end, and he's not built like a defensive end. But apparently, over this off-season period, Isaiah Loudermilk has gone away, worked on his strength, worked on his body, worked on his conditioning. He's put on some muscle. He looks more now like a Cam Hayward rather than a Zach Gentry, which is a very positive step forward. Isaiah Loudermilk is someone who is clearly taking his development very seriously and wanting to make that big step forward this coming season. Already he was been seen working with Cam Hayward in Steelers OTAs and in Steelers minicamp. Cam has been working with him on his hand placement, the use of his pads, how to break off blockers, lots of things he's been working with him. Is he training Tuitt's replacement? Or is he training his own replacement? Who knows? But Loudermilk is very much now more body type like a Cam Hayward, which is something that will be very useful on that defensive line. If we look back to Isaiah Loudermilk's draft profile coming out of Wisconsin, yes, I know we are a year removed from it, but in terms of his skill set, that is still very much prevalent at this moment in time. So this is analysis done by Lance Zierlein of the NFL Network. He said that he has the experience and potential to play in both odd and even defensive fronts and is a very adaptable player. And that's something that's going to be very useful because you can see that he's listed as a right defensive end on the depth chart. But I could say that could easily be swapped. He could move to that left defensive end position. Loudermilk is well built, but could use a little more mass and overall anchor, something he has now done and worked on. He is expected to play on the inside or in a defensive end position, which he is obviously doing now. He plays heavy hands and fires off the ball into the neutral zone with good force to strike and stake his claim. While he can settle into solid positioning early in the rep, Latimer lacks the play traits and talent to finish as a playmaker. But again, that's something he is now working on and developing by working with the likes of Cam Hayward and Tyson Alualu. He'll get some movement as a rusher, but not enough to expect him to play on passing downs. He has a day 3 potential. This was last year. Looking at his strengths, activate sumo hand fighting for interior pass rush, efficient footwork and movement on twists, reads the quarterback and looks to bat down passes, as has been seen by those 3 passes defensed he had in the regular season last season. Potential to extend and separate through his punch. Hands are fairly heavy. He's a team-oriented defender who's willing to do the dirty work. And when you've got 2 real solid superstars in terms of Tyson Alualu and Cam Hayward, that's just what you need on that third position. Someone who is willing to do that dirty work, that team dirty work. Leg drive pushes and scoots the blocker into the backfield. Now, I think with the mini camps obviously just finishing today, going forward, when the Steelers go to Latrobe and go into training camp, I would say that is a perfect opportunity, and in preseason, to really try out Isaiah Loudermilk in that spot. I think he's got all necessary skills and now a year's NFL experience. Yes, maybe in the long term, that's a position for DeMarvin Leal, hence why we drafted him. But at this moment in time, I would say that DeMarvin Leal is not yet pro-ready. It may be that he comes in and spells Isaiah Loudermilk and learns the NFL that way. But I personally think that Loudermilk has the potential to be Tuitt's replacement and be the man on that line. He is a big unit. He's got good movement, as it said, and he is good at stuffing the rush, something we really need to develop this season. And I think if we've got Cam, Tyson, and an Isaiah Loudermilk, that will really support that run defense. It will also support the inside linebackers by keeping Devin Bush and Miles Jack clean and letting them get free to go sideline to sideline and to cover. That is something I think will be absolutely could actually seriously work. Now, I'm no expert, right? I am not Brian Flores. I am not Carl Dunbar. I am not Terrell Austin or Mike Tomlin. I don't pretend to be. This is just my opinion. But with those caliber of coaches, we have got the caliber of coaches who can skill up Isaiah Loudermilk to come in and play on that defensive line. Well, that's my idea, Steeler Nation. What do you think? Is Isaiah Loudermilk a good option to try, at least in preseason, and then obviously in the first couple of games of the season as the left defensive end and the replacement long term for Stephon Tuitt, or short term with then DeMarvin Leal coming in? Chris Wormley is a solid guy, but for me, he's not a starter. He's a good depth piece. Yes, he had a very good season last season, but his run defense was fairly poor. He was quite easily moved out of the way, and he didn't really excel in that part of the game. Something the Steelers really need to improve this season if this defense is going to go from being a very good defense to elite defense. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. And if you're still listening at this point, hit that subscribe button. Come and join the Pittsburgh Steelers Syndicate family. We are Steelers fans. Me and Mark are Steelers fans. We make Steelers content for you, Pittsburgh Steelers fans. That's our job. That's our role. That's what we want to do. Thank you so much for listening. And let's finish this, as we always do, with Here We Go, Steelers.